Everyone. Hello. Welcome to VCTV, which is the Venture Capital TV from LATOKEN. So basically, we host these events to connect investors like yourselves with entrepreneurs, founders, and startups in our community. So we host this every day, Monday to Friday. We cover different topics. Yesterday was a different topic. Today we have a new topic. The main objective and the goal of VCTV is to help startups, get that investment, that funding round, the support with scaling up their ventures. So that's the sole purpose. And also for investors, it's the right platform to network and build a community. So today I'm very much excited again. I see people from various parts of the world. So from Asia, from I think Israel as well, if I'm not wrong. I checked that later. Texas, Las Vegas, California, and Hong Kong, Singapore. So welcome to VCTV. Before I start the show, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the moderator of the show. Myself, Sunny Mohanty. I'm the regional director of LATOKEN. I'm based here in Singapore. So welcome to VCTV. Today we have speakers from Hong Kong. Karina, hi, welcome to VCTV. Welcome back. This is your second show, I guess. Today we have also two new speakers. I mean, somebody who is not new to me, but a new speaker on my panel. Jose. Hi, Jose. How are you today? Are you okay? Hi. Are you standing, or you would just? I have a little. It feels like you are looking down. Where are you coming from?
I'm in a very comfortable chair.
Oh, okay. So that gives a little different effect. So where are you dialing from? Are you in Israel?
No, I'm dialing now from Krakow in Poland. So at this time, I'm in Central Europe.
Right. So we are obviously locked down at different places from far away from our homeland. But I remember you are based originally from Israel, if I remember correctly, right?
Originally from New York.
Oh, yeah. My bad memory then.
Well, it happens.
All right, welcome to VCTV. We've spoken before many times, but this is the first time you're speaking on our panel, and I love to hear from you as well. And also we have new guests from Las Vegas, Joel. Hi, Joel. Welcome to VCTV. How are you today?
Thank you. Waking up. I'm fine.
What's the time? What's the time over there? Just a little curious. What's the time?
5 a.m.
Oh my God. Why would you do that? Oh, sorry. I mean, either you love our shows or you love speaking. I mean, either
no, I mean, I agreed to do it once to see if I can get up. No, normally I'm based in Hong Kong, so normally this would be normal time, but I'm on the West Coast of the United States, so it's 5 a.m.
That explains for Hong Kong, Singapore, we are 8 p.m. So end of the day. Fantastic. And our regular speakers, I'm not going to forget them. I'm so sorry. Irina and Louis were shaking his head. He probably thought I would just forget him. No, you are our regular speakers, and obviously a lot of good insights coming from you guys, both of you, power-packed speakers every day. And Louis wasn't on my panel yesterday, and I was wondering why.
I wasn't invited. If I was invited, I would have come on just to go and be with you and Minnie Mouse and Irina and the crew and give you some information.
That's why. So Gary and Irina were there to give me company, but anyways, you were missed.
Oh, if Gary was here, then it was good that I wasn't here. That's it. I'm done.
Great. Awesome. Fantastic. So today's topic is about FoodTech, investments into food technology, food processing, and delivery. So we know how much the food industry got disrupted during the pandemic, especially with the closure of the shops, shopping malls, the restaurants, the hotels, and service industry got affected as well. So we're going to talk about the trends, the current trends in the investments around the food tech industry, the challenges, if any, and the future roadmap and the investments. So I'm going to start with Asia, as I love to travel from Asia to west. So yeah, I'm going to stick to that format. So I'm going to start with Karina. Karina, I would like you to start with a short intro about yourself to our audience and other panel speakers who are here, for those who may not know you, and we go from there. Thank you. Welcome, Karina. Over to you.
Fantastic, Sonny. Great to be back. And I know you had a couple other of team members from the Angel Hub team with you as well. I'm so thrilled to be back on the show. For those who do not know us, I'm co-founder of W Hub and Angel Hub. So W Hub is Hong Kong's largest startup community platform and power connector, because we have the mission on helping startups grow and scale and connecting to all the resources they need to do so. And with that, arguably allow all stakeholders to tap into the innovative power of the ecosystem. And we set out with that mission on also bringing Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area on the global maps of startup ecosystem, several years back. And I'm really thrilled to celebrate a couple of, records and firsts, now even on a global level. Now with that, Angel Hub is taking part of one specific connection, which is connecting startups to investors, and again, investors to that very specific asset class that startups represent. So Angel Hub is Hong Kong's very first and still only SFC regulated equity crowdfunding platform for professional investors on the one hand side, and on the other side, growth stage companies that do not have to be born out of Hong Kong, but that are, coming globally, but scaling in Asia. We're sector agnostic, we're technology agnostic. We invest 80% of our deal flow in pre-series A, Series A, and 20% actually in Series C and later stage, because we say, we solve the problem of time, access, and know-how, not only for the startups, but also for investors, and help them to get a diversified portfolio. So also, with that, democratize access to startup investing, and investing in a little bit later stage sometimes feels a bit more comfortable when you do it for the first time. We do have a fund also that co-invests alongside the platform. So we have, a very highly vetted deal flow that we put on the platform, and we put our money where our mouth is. And besides that, I'm also very active. I mean, on W Hub, our hashtag is startup passion. So you can see we're very passionate about startups and the overall community. I'm really active also on pro bono basis as an ambassador or member of several think tanks. One supported by the German government and the Senate to Berlin on Asia Berlin on building bridges. That's where I originally come from, but also here task force of the Hong Kong SAR government and the One Belt, One Road initiative, vice president of the Hong Kong chapter of TAI, and several other, all initiatives and organizations that have the objective on further the ecosystem and the startups. So my pleasure to be back.
Wonderful. What a start. What an intro. Perfect. Thank you, Karina, for that. We'll come back to you with questions. Thank you, and welcome to VCTV again.
Thank you. I should have mentioned probably just one last thing, actually, why I'm on the panel is because we did invest into a food tech company. So very happy to talk about the trends on food tech. Yes.
We're happy to know about that as well. Thank you, Karina, for that. So next I have Jose. Hi, Jose. I'd like to start with a short intro about yourselves. Just the way Karina did, a quick intro and the company you represent and your connection with the startup and the investor side as well. Like, if you can just.
So, thank you, Sonny. So I've been a serial entrepreneur now for quite a long time, more or less like 40 years. Started quite young, and I've been in several different verticals, including the food sector. I also have been in the consumer products, in clothing, shoes, and basically I built a lot of brands in the past. And eventually I got into technology. And the reason I got into technology is quite simple. I have a finance background, and I studied also tech. And I basically got into different areas which were not my specific expertise. And I've been in fintech now for 20 years. I became eventually a business angel since 1994. I was a VC for 3 years. I'm still an advisor for a Portuguese VC, which is Portugal Ventures. And today I'm basically working on what I call business inclusion, because I feel that a huge amount of talent out there basically has no opportunities at all to kick off a business, or at least keep that business. And Yeah, I'm very thrilled to be here on this panel, and it looks like we have a great panel today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. I mean, you've been a regular speaker on VCTV ever since you just came on board, and I really appreciate. And I've seen your shows as well. I mean, with Carl, and amazing. Thank you so much, and welcome to Asia, Singapore VCTV. So next, I would like to go for Joel, who's just joined us for the very first time. Joel, welcome to VCTV. Please help introduce yourself to the other speakers and the audience that we have. Thank you.
Sure. I'll be brief. Most of the time I'm in Asia, so I've been in Asia for almost 40 years, and I lived in Japan for 22 of the 40 years, and the rest in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Shenzhen. So I was a student at a Japanese university many years ago when Japan was an emerging market. So that should tell you how many years ago. So I've been in food service related businesses since 1991. And I spent a small stint with DirecTV, the satellite broadcasting company, when it was first started. So I was a senior executive with them, and we opened up the Japan market, which was a huge investment, over $600 million, which was an exciting time. Of course, I think DirecTV is obsolete now with internet TV and streaming and everything else, but we were the first digitized broadcasting network globally, where we had 600 channels on your transceiver. So it was an exciting time, to be there in those days back in the 1990s. So I've been a franchisor, I've been a franchisee. What's pertinent to this panel, I think, is I started to get involved in delivery related businesses in Japan back in 1991. In Japan, just about everything is delivered. And I was a board member at the time of KFC Japan, which was $1 billion public company on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And KFC was pretty much built out back in the early 1990s. We had 1,000 stores. So we invested in a Pizza Hut sister company franchise. So we started up Pizza Hut, but more importantly, we started up delivering bento boxes. So bento boxes are Japanese style lunches. And we set up a couple of hundred dark kitchens back in 1990 where no one could see them. We branded them, and we delivered hundreds of bento boxes to each office building every day. So we started at 7 a.m, and the stores were closed by 2. So the real estate had to be very cheap. So I've had lots of experience with self-delivery, delivery aggregators, particularly in Indonesia, with Gojek and with Grab in Southeast Asia. And now we've have direct investments in 2 delivery businesses and familiarity with a bunch of dark kitchens like Reef Kitchens or Crave Delivery. So we're pretty knowledgeable about the space, but I want everyone to know dark kitchens didn't start last year. So they've been around for at least since Domino's opened the first one at the University of Michigan back in the 1950s. So it's not a new idea, but delivery is a very simple business. But unfortunately, technology people made it very complicated and showed how you can lose crazy amount of money doing it. So,
right, great insights. Very good introduction, Joel, for that as well. You are a global citizen now, and you just Japan, Southeast Asia, Hong Kong. You've been everywhere, and I'm really excited to hear from you about the industry as well, as you rightly said, food delivery. So welcome again, Joel, to VCTV, and thank you. So next, I'd like to go. I have to choose. No, I'm going to go with Irina. Hi, Irina. Welcome back. Welcome back to VCTV. Well, what are you displaying today behind you? I'm just a little confused.
It's the tech in the food.
Ah, gotcha. Right.
The growing field and the different tech bubbles that go to making food a reality or whatever.
Very creative. Yeah. Indeed. I see a farmland, like an agricultural land, and then you have this tech.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Irina Litchfield, pleasure to be back. Many know me as a crypto superwoman. I am president of Lumeria. It's where capital meets innovation. We're driven by bringing back small market cap and creating truly global capital markets. I am advisor for Space Fund. Prochain Capital and a global securities exchange. I'm also an investor and owner of a farm. And so food, food and transportation, food delivery, food and connecting food and technology is really dear to me subject. So I'm pleased to be here, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the insights of wonderful panelists.
Yeah, thank you, Rina. Same here. I'm really excited to hear about all those brains coming together and exploding knowledge. Thank you so much, Rina. Last but not least, Louis, and was missed yesterday.
Oh, I'm back. I'm back. All right. Just to give everyone the skinny on me. We're global too. I'm a managing partner with FJ Partners. I've been involved in finance for over 25 years, involved in technology longer than that. We're involved in AI, AR, machine learning, computer vision, all the fun stuff. And this topic today is going to be very interesting in food tech. With you have bleeding edge technology that's rising like crazy in this space. So I'm looking forward to getting the input from Karina and Joel, because they have a better handle on that than I do. But I think that the growth in the sector, especially when it comes to certain areas, is going to continue to rise. So I think that today's panel is going to be pretty good. So I look forward to it. And I need to add that I do host my own show too, Money Never Sleeps, and been doing a lot of interesting things with that. And and we're looking to do more stuff. And thank you, Sonny. Missed you yesterday.
Same here. Thank you so much, Louis, and welcome back to VCTV. Great. So we are all set in terms of introductions and, going from Asia all the way to Las Vegas. I missed Las Vegas, sorry, so I had to say that. Okay, Karina, let's start the discussion. Before we deep dive into investments, would you like to give a perspective, like a little overview of what's happening in this industry? What have you seen in the last few months, since February 2020 up until now? And then we talk about investments. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. I have to say that we realized here in Hong Kong that food tech is actually pretty hot. And obviously it's a trend all over the world. But it's interestingly, because if we look at, where the government puts the focus, it's basically on fintech, because it's Asia's premier, financial center, or even, arguably now overcoming the London Stock Exchange and even, the New York Stock Exchange in terms of listing volume. Anyway, there's a lot of focus that is in other areas and IoT and smart city. But if we look even in terms of some of the investors that have been very active, including Li Ka-shing, and some of the companies that have benefited either being born here out of Hong Kong or having significant investments here, be it Impossible Food, and we had Nick Nikala at our recent conference where you also joined, talk a little bit about Impossible Foods, or even if we think about Memphis Meat, that was also supported by SOSV, which is one of our partners, and obviously William sitting here in China. And I don't know if you have followed the news, actually, even our very own David Young, who is the founder of Green Monday and Omni Pork, right, who does actually plant-based food in the context of, a pork actually substitute, just raised another 70 million round on bringing this forward. And now, as I mentioned, the company that we're currently, vetting and investing in is a company that is really in the area of fish protein. So it's actually not plant-based food, but it is actually, fish protein based to deliver, the benefits of either arguably, fish protein for skincare or any other treatments, but also in the food tech sector. So I think what we actually see, what is really interesting is we kind of like sit on a melting pot where you have several technologies, but even also, several approaches in terms of, food tech. So it might be plant-based to kind of like reproduce beef, pork, chicken, whatever it is, or actually, looking into, just having a more sustainable and also, a better quality type of approach on producing food, right? To address, some of the real sustainability issues in terms of, developing and kind of like cultivating, meat, pork, whatever type of animal. So I think it's really interesting. And since we started looking into that space and grew our partnerships into, you know, some of venture capitalists that are only specializing in this field, and that's, you know, as you know, typically how we approach things, we're sector agnostic, and then really through our IC and our partnerships try to get a very narrow understanding on, you know, the sector we're vetting. We have actually been thrilled in terms of really the creativity of different technologies, different approaches, and also different go-to-market strategies. I mean, we can talk a little bit later on, but you know, one of the things that is interesting now with the fish and maritime protein type of approaches, it is as much applicable for the food industry as well as it is for skincare and other treatments. So I think it's a fascinating space that we really got hooked on and are very bullish on.
Yeah, great insights. I mean, I was reading somewhere as well, like as you broke the news. Yeah, I read that, I think Daisy's post, one of the posts. Yeah. So
Yeah.
great. I mean, yeah, and definitely the focus has shifted on sustainability, right? I mean, health and, you know, so with the skincare regime and everything else. So yeah, I'm going to come to you with that, how technology is propelling this sector. With my next question after I'm done with other speakers. Thank you for that, Karina. Next, we have Jose. Hi, Jose. We'd like to hear about your insights about the sector. Thank you.
So what I've been researching lately is that, first of all, we did a swap over all the countries in the world. It took us 6 months to understand what all these countries are producing, what they're exporting, and what they are importing. So finally, we have now an overview, a global overview of what is going in and out, not only in food, but also in, let's say, minerals and all other sectors. Why did we do that? Because the way we see it is that we need to get close to the producer. So far, the producer has been far away from the consumer. And the future and technology enables us, more or less, to be able to get it from the producer, you know, and if we want, almost directly to the consumer. So what we see is that there is an evolution. I recently, like 3 weeks ago, I was looking into a project, which is a Brazilian project, and they are building up a marketplace for all the meat producers in Brazil. There's one very big company, which is the market leader in the world among them. And we are talking about a tremendous, huge amount of cattle that is really going to put on that marketplace. And basically, it goes almost directly to the consumer if we would like to. Right? So you would be able to buy a cow if you would like to do that. But the way I see it is that food, it has two aspects. One is the aspect with the transitions, so the delivery of it itself and getting it to the consumer. And the other thing is the technology that is needed in the food sector to produce more food, because we are consuming more and more, and we have more and more people living on this earth. And this will really become a problem because the supply chain we have for all these individuals is becoming very hectic. There is no way you can produce meat for everybody, okay, or fish or vegetables. So you need to have a combination. It gets worse and worse as long as time passes. Now, I know, for example, that in South Korea, and I also believe in Japan, but maybe Joel knows more about it than I do, is that they have a huge concentration on algae. I heard about microalgae. I know one company which is Japanese owned in Portugal. And what they do is they collect the sea algae and they produce it in the food sector, not only for consumer, but also for cattle. So all that is extracted. So that's the way I see it, and quite excited to look at what the technology will do to bring the consumer direct to the producer.
Yeah, thank you, Jose. I mean, I think I remember we have a founder in our network who's into algae farming, so I have a bit of idea and a background about that. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. Lovely. So next, yeah, Joe, over to you. I mean, I don't have any questions for you, but you understand, like, you know, I would like to have your perspective on the broader spectrum. If you can give us like Asia and US as well. So that would be great for a start. Thank you.
Yeah, well, what I'd like to do is to keep my comments, related to what I'm involved in, obviously, because I don't know everything about everything. But I would say that one global trend, which we all know about, of course, it's a rise in convenience, increase in delivery, cashless systems, and all of that. And so I've gotten involved in it, other than being a practitioner for many years with self-delivery. I got involved in two different businesses recently, because I do believe that the Grubhubs, the DoorDashes, the Uber Eats are toxic to the retail industry. So they don't really provide any profitable benefits. There's a lot of money, the SoftBanks of this world, investing in things which probably will never make any money. And once they do an IPO and they sell it to the greater fool, they're out. So I think delivery is one of those businesses where it's actually fairly easy to develop a profitable business if you do it right. So we've discovered, one, through a deep dive the last 6 months, the people involved in this, none of them know how to deliver. They could never figure out how to do it. So they're relying on technology to do something on a national scale, which is not very efficient. So what we've done is we have two fairly big pilots now up and running, one in the United States in several cities, where we're doing essentially delivery cooperatives. So we're actually making the merchants investors in self-delivery ecosystems in each city. So we've been able to, believe it or not, Uber Eats in the United States would charge someone 30%, an independent merchant. So we actually can break even at 5% delivery. So there's a massive inefficiency. And we have tests up and running. And when I say tests, I mean, these are operating cooperatives in several cities. We're opening 5 more cities this year in the United States. And the first 2 are extremely profitable. And the investors have gotten back 20 times their initial investment. So we think that is a future development of building, basically having the merchants involved in local ownership of delivery. The big difference is a DoorDash, for example, it's nationally run. The drivers are never interviewed. Merchants are never interviewed. There's no personal care with any of them. And all the dispatching is done nationally through AI. In this case, we recruit merchants to the platform locally. The individual co-op is owned partially by local people, plus local merchants. Drivers are all recruited and vetted locally. Dispatching is all done locally. With so the efficiency, the dispatch efficiency, the customer service levels are much, much higher than they are with DoorDash or these other groups. And I can talk about Australia and what we're doing in Singapore later, but we're taking a completely different tact, because in Australia, the minimum, generally the wage level, the minimum wage is like $25 an hour. Okay, so and Australians don't like paying for delivery, and they don't like to tip. So how do you drive it? So the Uber Eats is like 35 or 38% fees in places like Australia. So we have solutions around that as well, which are local solutions. So I can talk about that later.
Wow, fantastic. I mean, something new for me. Thank you so much, Joel, for sharing those with us. Next,
my pleasure.
Next, I'd like to go to Rina, because Rina also mentioned she has something to say on delivery first. So Rina, over to you.
Well, I think that when we think about food and food tech is really undeveloped in a lot of ways, right? So now we're doing a really great job doing processed foods, but when it comes to whole foods, we're not really using much technology, and so that gap must be closed. And it comes to growing, right? So growing and producing food first. We need to be able to use technology to kind of do a lot of tracking, right? So for example, drones are spurring up this year for just kind of doing analysis. Now, there's not a lot of apps, if you would, programs that are written to do those analysis, but they're spurring up. And those businesses here in US are doing very well. They're raising good amount of money. Now, obviously, full processing became a big question here in US for us, especially in Texas when the slaughterhouses got closed. And it really brought highlight to the processes of this slaughterhouses, right? Of really, how do things work? How is our food handled. And there's a lot of opportunities that are growing here. One of the things that we're seeing in Texas here locally is basically kind of if you would, conscious slaughterhouses, right? So they're slaughterhouses that kind of take into account the well-being of animals when they're getting slaughtered. Now it might sound ridiculous, but that matters a lot to people because stress hormone is very challenging, right? And we can get into different subject of, cows being fed by grain and constantly living in the stress hormone, versus cows that are eating grass and not experiencing that, your production. There's all kinds of things. And then of course the food delivery became very interesting here, right? Because we kind of thought we're at the point of where, well, we have everything delivered to us and it's fine, until people became concerned with protocols, who touched my bag and who packed my bag, and am I going to touch it for a day after that, or how does it work? All of these problems opened up opportunities. What I'm concentrating on is on connecting technology with the food production, right? Because if we have a better optimization of systems, if we have better technology that allows us to do a better food production, then we can create systems that can be scalable, and most importantly, that can be adopted by others. Right now, if you want to get into the farming, you can either do traditional farming, okay, where you basically contributing very heavily to the loss of topsoil, using pesticides and herbicides and tilling practices, and supposed to regenerative farming, right? And I talk about regenerative systems in technology design in a position to sustainable, because, and I really want to bring that up again, we live in the world that tries to be sustainable. We have built the systems that are trying to be sustainable because that's what we do. And I think what we need to think about is regeneration. How do we create the systems, technology, and the food growing processes and food processing, delivery in a way that is regenerative, in a way that adapts to our current reality as we move forward into the future. And so that tech to me is very, very, very interesting. The food production tech, how do we allow farmers, people invest in 100 acres, for example, right? Nothing big. We don't even have to get into the sections, which is like a standard minimum amount of measurement of the land, and empower people to do that. I'm sure you guys seeing that a lot of people are moving out from big cities. They're moving to Texas and other kind of rural areas of United States. They're buying land. They're thinking that they desire to produce their food, but they don't have the tools. So, and there's so much misinformation about how it's done. So that's a big gap and the big opportunity. And I would love to see more companies coming in and developing the systems, developing the packages and structures.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Irina, for those sharing insights on food tech, delivery, agriculture, agri-tech. Thank you so much. So Luis, I'd like to know your insights as well.
I love the insight coming from the panel. It's great to hear the different views. It adds to the conversation. I mentioned earlier about bleeding edge technology, from the farm to fork, from the manufacturing plant to fork. You have a lot of technology that's coming out. You have one area which is alternative foods, the other area which is AI, machine learning, computer vision, blockchain. You have different areas and they're being utilized for different things. You have a lot of alternative foods that are coming out. Karina mentioned about Impossible Foods and also Beyond Meat, and you have a lot of other things in the dairy area. Okay, I think Perfect Day is doing some great stuff. They raised about 150 million. You have a lot of these things happening right now, and there's going to be a great opportunity in these spaces with the microorganisms, because you're creating milk without the actual cow, egg whites without the eggs. You're doing this stuff, and this is all vegan geared things, but it's also about the environment as well. reducing green gases, so on and so forth. So this becomes very interesting. And again, it's a fragmented area, but you're going to have consolidation in this arena as well. You have companies that are in there, ConAgra Foods. You have other companies, bigger companies, and they're taking over, acquiring smaller companies. So when you're talking about startups, okay, startups that are in this space, if they have a solution for a problem, and it's a real solution, not them, following the leader, doing something different, they may find themselves being acquired by ConAgra or one of these other companies, Campbell's, General Mills, big players in the game. And they've been doing big deals. Okay, now on the blockchain end, you have IBM. I mentioned this before. They made a deal with Walmart. They have the IBM Food Trust. Okay, which basically it's gauging the quality, is making sure the quality is there, is making sure that there's traceability, is making sure that it is what they say it is, and they're protecting the consumers, they're protecting society, they're protecting us as we buy these products. So they're saying, hey, you have this on your plate, this is where it came from, this is what happened. And you have MasterCard. People don't realize this. MasterCard is getting involved in that game as well, and they're utilizing blockchain for the traceability and things like that. They're doing with Invisible's whole chain tech. So that's going to be interesting as well. And I think that AI within itself, and we're in this space, is really interesting, because you have now, you go from the alternative foods, then you go to the other end of it, which is, the traceability and other technologies in manufacturing. Now you look at the marketing part of it. Okay, you have companies like I think Dr. Pepper, they utilized this maybe 3 years ago. They utilize machine learning to have a predictive analysis set so they can market to you. So it tells them what trends are going to be there in the next few years. So all this stuff is all technology in the food industry, and it's really, really exciting, really interesting, and a lot of opportunity will be coming out of it.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for that insights on technology. I totally agree with blockchain technology bringing in so much advantages and benefit for the industry, brand transparency, and managing the big data, exploring data. Thank you so much, Luis. And I'm come back to you with more questions. Okay, next with Karina. Karina, you mentioned that you recently invested into a startup in FoodTech. So was it recently done in this year? And what kind of investment models do you see emerging out of this pandemic, if anything different from last year?
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, it's great to listen to the other panelists and, really also get a kind of like a confirmation on some of the trends that we really see. I think just one of the things that I wanted to highlight, I think Irina mentioned it, but also Luis, I think, if we go back in terms of, currently, if you look at the market, right, we probably already have like 10% really plant-based, vegan type of food that is taken over to the 90% conventional. The space that we're looking in right now, which is really cultivated meat, right, which is really taking, part of the cells that are originally from a fish, for example. You can actually compare it to kind of like what we're used to in other areas like hydroponic, right? You take parts of a plant and you basically put them into a safe environment to multiply it further on, and then you can cultivate it. Or even if you look about bacteria or yeast, right? You pull out of it, you put it in a fermenter, and then you basically, multiply the quantity. That's exactly what we're looking now when we look at this cultivated meat, right? Where we take different cell stems, put them in the bioreactor, and then have, through tissue engineering and cell scaffolding, basically can, take one fish and make 1,000 out of it, even without killing the fish. The thing that I also wanted to build on is what is really interesting with this technology, not only we're ticking the box and everything that is sustainable, and sustainability related. You know, first of all this trend about you feel good because you do something that is really good for the earth. Now, actually, with this technology, particularly, you know, in the maritime, you know, industry, where if we look at, you know, oceans that are getting more and more polluted, now also the quality and the food that you get out of it is better. So you're doing something good for the environment, it's better for your health. And now, given that the technology is advancing, it's even going to be as cost effective or even cheaper than what you typically have. So there's no reason, you know, why you wouldn't tick the box. I think to your point on, is there anything else that we see in terms of COVID? I mean, I guess food tech is one of the areas that, particularly, you know, when we talk about, you know, production, I'm not talking about delivery, which is a different thing. Well, I wouldn't say, I mean, COVID did not necessarily have a hugely negative or positive impact, right? I mean, I think it was a general trend that we saw, as I said, right, where you started ticking the box and you're doing good for the planet, you're doing good for yourself, and, you know, you don't have to pay more to do all of that, which is just, you know, reinforcing now, because potentially because people become more health focused and health centric, and food tech is kind of like of the overall umbrella of health tech, which becomes a little bit buzzy. But I think what we actually have seen also in the company, which we are, to answer your question, currently investing in and driving forward, is that we have players in that space who have been following it for several years. Right. So typically also, you know, previous investors that come back in this round, or investors that continuously are on the watch out for, you know, new technologies or improvement in the existing technologies, are the ones that have been specialized in that space. And again, for us, it was whenever, you know, we make a conscious choice to entering into a segment we haven't been in previously, is one of the indications also, and one of the, you know, positive factors for us to make the move. And we're really actually pretty much impressed also within this ecosystem. So I hope it answered your questions. Let me know if there was anything that I missed in your question.
I think I missed out. Where is this company incorporated, and what is their market, the target markets?
Yes, so actually one of the most thrilling elements, obviously, for us is, I mean, as I said, you don't have to be a company from Hong Kong to, you know, raise funds with us. You do have to have at least an expansion strategy in Hong Kong and Asia. But this is a Hong Kong-born company. So they're still a relatively early stage, but with a very interesting go-to-market strategy, because when you start talking about maritime protein, it's not only food, as I said, it's skincare, it's wound care, you know, it's real traditional healthcare. It's protein drinks. So they actually have a roadmap of, you know, monetization that is much faster than a typical food tech company that would need to wait to have all the permits lined up before they can commercialize. Because, you know, again, in these other market segments, the commercialization is easier. So very, very thrilling Series A stage. But as we have seen previously, again, with Memphis, Beyond, Impossible, you know, Omnipore, Green Monday, the pace of scale is increasing. So these companies scale very, very fast. And again, one of the things that is interesting, because it is not the only company operating, obviously, in the fish and protein market. It's one of the only and most advanced ones in Asia. And again, the technology, which is basically tissue engineering and cell scaffolding, it's a tongue breaker, is quite unique. So we're obviously thrilled that it is a Hong Kong-born company, but it wouldn't have to be. It wouldn't have to be.
Oh, great. Thank you. And Ivan, what was that technology, that tongue twister again?
That cell scaffolding or tissue engineering.
That's better.
So you take a few, and the interesting thing really is, and also that's sometimes important for the skincare market, right, where it's all about animal testing, etc. You don't have to kill the fish, actually, so you can just extract several cells out of it.
Awesome, fantastic. I mean, talk about technology. Where have we reached? I mean, we've got the cells that are killing the fish. Amazing. Something new for me to learn today on the panel. Thank you so much, Karina, for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, quickly, I want to move to Joel about his delivery, food delivery insights from Asia, because I think, Joel?
Well, I mean, basically one of the things I didn't discuss, one of the things that's always annoyed me are the technology people that built these platforms, which are really simple, make all the money. The merchants make very little money, and the drivers, the actual people doing the work, are, you know, basically paid peanuts. So it's a very unfair system in terms of who's getting, the value added for something. Right now, delivery ordering technology is basically like white bread. It's available anywhere. There are hundreds of different software companies offering very similar stuff. So there's nothing proprietary about any of it anymore. Okay, that's a fact. But in different markets around the world, the conditions are different. For example, in Nigeria, I was involved with a delivery company there has a $1 billion market cap on the New York Stock Exchange, and people just delivering with bicycles, fairly low tech. So, I mean, each market is different. And the reason I brought up Australia is quite an interesting case, because Australia is much more, I would say, of an egalitarian society. That people don't like people showing wealth. They don't like the Donald Trump types apprentice, they hate that kind of thing. So, generally they have very high minimum wage, but they don't have some of the exogenous problems we have in the United States, food stamps and all this stuff that comes from paying people very low. So in a market like Australia, we took a little different tack with delivery. And essentially we realized that it's almost impossible to make money doing delivery with labor costs and everything else. So we basically break even on the delivery side, but we make money on payments. And we're looking to make the majority of the money on deep data analytics. So basically merchants who sign up for the platform, we can show them how we can increase their incremental sales pretty significantly using our data analytic techniques. Basically deep data, basically figuring out different offers to the customer to drive your gross margins, et cetera. So we're actually looking at data to help the merchants make money. We're in this business to help the merchants survive, not to make the venture capitalists rich. Okay, and the businesses we're in don't require a lot of money. So, I mean, we don't need hundreds of millions of dollars with what we're doing. So we're not burning money. But essentially our mission, look, at my age, we need something to look forward to in life. And I think if we can make the merchants, if we can help them survive, if we can help them deliver at a much lower cost, where they're actually investors and getting a good return on their investment, and we can also help them with their marketing through deep data, then we would have done light years more than Uber Eats or DoorDash has ever done for any of them. The only problem with that is a venture capitalist is not going to make 1,000 times as money. We're not going to be building something worth $1 billion, but we will actually be making millions of dollars in profit. So not losing hundreds of millions of dollars.
So Australia is obviously a unique case in the sense the minimum wage is so high. What about, how is it different from Asia, where, like, for instance, Indonesia? I think the minimum wage.
I think, one of the things I can say about Indonesia in particular, Indonesia is a little different than China, but obviously they've all, whether it was Meituan or Ulama or Grab, they've all basically took the Uber example in the beginning. And the technology was obviously quite simple because everyone's copied it. As I said, now it's available, for 5 cents a delivery or 5 cents an order from all these other software competitors. So they basically out-executed, Uber in local markets. So, I mean, they all have pretty much similar super apps, right? So one thing we don't have in the United States, which is really behind the times, but it may be difficult because of antitrust, is we don't have cashless payments the way they have in Indonesia or Southeast Asia or China, right? And obviously the banks in the United States are going to fight that tooth and nail because, try to use a credit card in China. Today, it's almost impossible, right? If you don't have WePay or Alipay. In the United States, that's going to be quite difficult. Banks do not want to give up credit cards, right? Now, merchants would love to give up credit cards because merchants are paying 2.3 to 2.5% every transaction. But in places like Canada, they're paying like 15 cents a transaction. Wow. So I think that's a huge, talk about a disruptive element that could happen in the United States would be if merchants don't have to, use credit cards anymore. Now, credit cards will always be there because people want to borrow money. But the point I'm trying to make is, Gojek is one of those great unicorns. I know the Gojek people. I mean, they've done a terrific job. Whether they ever make money or not is another story, just like DoorDash or everybody else. But, they are a super app copy of basically, Meituan, Ulama, and those kind of companies. And so is Grab. So, I mean, the amazing thing to me I saw in Indonesia was a friend of mine started a coffee chain. and he was franchising a coffee chain. And I stood on the street, on a back street, and the customers were all Gojek and Grab drivers. So the motorbikes would have ordered their coffee on their smartphone before they got to the location, to this little kiosk. They would swipe with their phone, drink their coffee, have a cigarette, and get back on the road. So these were cheap coffee concepts, but their customers were all the drivers. So I mean, yeah, technology is just as sophisticated in Indonesia, in Surabaya as it is in New York. Obviously, technology is a great leveler, but the key problem they all face is they don't make any money. The delivery problems. It's just a black hole of money losing businesses across the board. And look, the only other point I'd say, the reason for all this money floating all over the world is because there's no yield, right? So our beautiful Federal Reserve in the United States has created zero interest rates. And if you can't put money, if you're a pension fund, if you're a university endowment, you've got to throw your money somewhere. And with too much money comes stupid investments. And, that's inevitable. So.
Joel, great insight.
Sorry. I could see your face. I'm sorry if I was a...
No. There was really great insights starting Australia, Asia, US, Canada. I mean, yeah, great. Thank you so much for sharing that knowledge with me and the rest of the speakers.
Oh, my pleasure.
Have anything to add to what Joel said in terms of, yes, Irina, I knew that.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, you're 100% right, Joel, and especially with kind of the funding that in a traditional venture. And this is off topic to the food, but I think it's important that we discuss this because the traditional way of raising money does not work for everybody. And the model of let's keep blowing it up with as much money as possible until we no longer can receive benefits from the growth of a company and scaling of the company before we dump it into the unsophisticated investor, which is what a public investor is called. I think that it is now obvious that the systems are broken and they do not benefit anybody other than a small circle of venture capitalists. And again, off the topic, but I found that it's interesting that early stage investors are so empowering. They're so wonderful. They reach out to each other. They do great job with deal sharing. They do great job with helping entrepreneurs, welcoming entrepreneurs into the business world, empowering them. That's not the case for later stage. There's not much deal sharing that's happening, right? It's all exclusively, you have to swim in my fish tank to be the fish with me. So on the point of Karen's, but Karen's, I'm sorry. And yeah, I think that it's true and it's a reality. However, it is changing, and it is especially important for this industry too, because as you were mentioned, Joel, you're right, there's not much profits in it for VCs. Now you can have a great business and with that, and so that's very interesting and empowering. And blockchain technology plays, Sonny, that plays a big role.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Blockchain technology, yes, a big supporter. Thank you, Joel and Irina. Anybody has anything to comment on what? Yes, Luis, go for it.
I have things to say. I don't want to, tag too much on gloom and doom that Joel brought to the table with the U.S. Federal Reserve and everything. But there is a point with technology. You have technology companies that develop great platforms, SaaS platforms that have the ability to make money. Yeah, with the food delivery thing, I don't know how they make money, but someone makes money, right? But if when you take a company and you put pressure on them with the venture capital industry, they put pressure on these companies to increase evaluations. Now all of a sudden these companies are shooting so high, they're over promising, they underperform, and they're not making the money. And these companies can go out of business like this. They just keep putting money into these companies. And the problem is that, you know, you have an absentee landlord. Who's overseeing that? Who's helping these companies to actually grow? People are going to lose their jobs. This is stuff that happens, you know. So technology is a good thing. It can make money. We have technology companies. We make money. Okay. The bottom line is that you have to do it the right way. And it shouldn't just be, hey, I have to boost up this valuations because the shareholders want it to be like this, or the venture capitalist wants it to be like this. You have to do things the right way for sustainability and growth. Growth is a key thing. You have to keep doing that. And I just want to touch on something else, because we're talking about delivery. We're talking about, you know, alternative foods. There's another part of technology that no one's touching on. That's recycling. Recycling within, for the food industry, is important. You have recycling of plastics. You have beer companies that are using recycled cardboard for their packaging. You have companies in Belgium that are using totally 100% recycled plastics for their bottled water. So this is a trend that's going to continue to grow, and these, you're going to have opportunities in alternative foods. Okay, recycling, functional foods. You've got a carton of milk that says probiotics and things like that, calcium, you know, induced orange juice. Functional foods, you're going to have you know, a lot of opportunity there. So these are the things you have to look at. And if you're looking at, you know, startup companies that are in an area and they're coming out with something really interesting, if they're in that arena, take a look at them, because that's where you're going to find your opportunities. So that's my 2 cents. Actually, that's 4 cents, but you know what? I add a couple of more there.
4 cents. Talking about food recycling, does food waste fall into recycling? Anybody?
Well, I'm going to leave that to Irina, because that's her thing.
Right. I mean, that's a compost, right? So the recycling and compost is unsolved problem right now, because people don't really understand that if your plastics are dirty, they're not going to be recycled. And somebody actually has to sit there and go through all your recycling stuff. I believe that we can have kind of a natural way of dealing with compost. First of all, it's great to put carbon back. You know, it's a very important way to making dirt. There are several companies that are actually making this little bins that are garbage container, where you put your, you know, you put your leftovers in, and ideally you clean out your jar and rinse it off, and then you put it into the recycling bin, right? Just to make sure that you optimize those processes. But and it creates topsoil, and then you can plant into it. And remember, the biggest problem with our planet that is endangering our existence, and it sounds really dark, right, is the loss of topsoil. And we have less than 100 years of topsoil left on our planet. And with the practices, with an increasing kind of practices of traditional farming, right, because now we are little boutique regenerative farming are standing up all over the place, but you know, the traditional farming is growing. We're facing evolving rate of loss of topsoil. So that's great. We have a potbelly pig. Potbelly pig is a great pet. Okay, they don't grow big. They're more intelligent than a dog, and a potbelly pig will eat everything. I mean, if you for some reason left your meat uncooked in refrigerator for a long time because you left traveling and you didn't cook your steak, and you came home a month later and you look in your refrigerator, it is scary. Your potbelly pig will love and eat every single part of it, right? And I don't know how scalable it is, but it is something to think about, you know. And now that we've had a shutdown, a lot of people converting actually their backyards with a beautiful grass into the gardens. So maybe we can say, okay, maybe consider also getting a pet that can be contributing to, you know, health of an ecosystem around your home. Because if you don't have the compost going into the garbage, it means all that bacteria is not there, and there's not that smell, you know, that garbage smell that we all don't like goes away.
I'll give you
right.
actually, Sonny, with that question about food waste, you were really referring to another element that we have not really fully touched on a little bit. I think Joel, when he talks about who is actually being taken advantage of in, like, for example, food delivery platforms or so, the impact of regulatory framework. So we have seen several startups actually that also try to solve the problem of food wastage by redistributing food actually before you have to throw it away, and kind of like redistribute it to people potentially in need. And I think actually it really comes to the point on what is the role, obviously, from a regulatory framework of allowing it or even B, incentivizing, because when you get into this area, it is unfortunately an economical truth that nobody's really incentivized to do it. So again, I think it's a whole other area when you start talking about food tech and even food delivery, is what is the role of actually governments and regulatory bodies on allowing it, or B, encouraging and incentivizing such behavior. But I think that's for a next session, because we're getting to the end of the topic.
Right, you just reminded me of that. Any other question from anyone to any of the speaker here? Any last question, Jose?
Yeah, I would just say that I think the one thing we didn't touch is that meat production is really not effective. So you need like 100 times more veggies to just produce 1 kilo of meat. Right. And if you would just take those veggies and give it to the population, you could, feed 100 times more people. So this is a real global problem, that we produce so much meat because we love to eat meat, but it's really not effective. So if we would look at technology, and I would say that there are some companies looking at it, is like getting out of those veggies some kind of a burger, that tastes like meat and looks like meat. And there's where I would look into. Another point that I've been listening quite a lot of attention to the whole panel, and I really loved all the insights. One of the things that I didn't see touched, and I think is very important, I agree with Joel on a lot of points. The issue is that we already are going to, get that delivery automated. There are vehicles that can drive to your door. You open a lock, you put it inside, and it drives to somebody else. So in the future, you will not have any manual pickup anymore. Okay, that vehicle drives to your door, you go down, you pick it out, or you put it inside. There are some, for example, in Colombia, in Medellin, there was a first city that started with food delivery directly to consumers with these small vehicles. They look at the size of a dog, more or less, and a medium-sized dog, and they pick it up from the restaurant, and they drive it directly to the household. So similar projects are kicking off in China, and the last thing that I heard is that Amazon is starting to buying the first of these automated vehicles that are going to be a delivery. I'm not a big fan of the drones. So I think it's a little bit scary that you look up and one of these days, one of these drones drops on you. But it's an option, I don't see it's happening very fast, but those small vehicles, even bigger vehicles, I see that happen quite fast and spreading out. A last point. Now, we are working on business inclusion. And business inclusion, and on that point, I agree with Joel, and I also agree with Louis that a lot of AI needs to get into this, is that it's really annoying sometimes to see how much these small micro business owners pay to get these services. They are squeezed out. Now, 3% on a transaction, 20 or 30% for delivery, but there are other examples. If they just want to sell online, it's also 20%. What I can tell you is that we are working on a solution that will just charge them 0.5%, and they get the whole bundle. Okay, right. And we still make money with 0.5%. So,
it's a food delivery company.
Food delivery, transactions, financial transactions, the whole bundle in one shot, just 0.5%. Because at the end, what happens is that they are squeezed out of their free cash flows. All these small business owners. Once they are squeezed out of these free cash flows, they are not able to finance the growth of their own business. And they need to go out for debt or eventually for funding to be able to produce that. Now, if you give them, okay, a good portion, which they earn, right, of their free cash flows, then suddenly they have money in their pocket that they can use and they can reinvest in their business. And that's what it's all about. If they spread out all this money, right, just paying A, B, C, D, E, and F, at the end, there is no money for themselves, no money to grow their business, and they're basically stuck. So what we are doing here in Biz Money, okay, and
Yeah.
that's why we are working on it, is that we want to have them a lot of free cash flows, a lot of money that they can build up their business, low cost for the services they get, but a high percentage of money in their pocket, and they can grow it out. And it goes from agriculture up to merchant, up to a restaurant, or whatever you name it.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I mean, I'm really interested to know more, but obviously conscious of the time. We are running short of time. And also another insight that you mentioned, I wanted to ask Karina, but I think we can take that into a different panel about the meat, the veggies going into a meat supplement and how is it different from the fish supplement and all that stuff. And obviously your views on the drones varies from Irina as well. That's conflicting as well. I mean, you know, in a lighter note, we could just, I really wanted to continue, but as I said, it's 9 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, late for us. I'm going to take this into another panel. Very quickly, closing remarks from each of you. And Karina, what's your feedback about VCTV as well? Like 2 questions, very quick.
Well, first of all, can you hear me? Yeah, well, first of all, again, thank you very much. I think the feedback overall to you, Sonny, and the team is really, I'm always learning so much from all the co-panelists. So you do an amazing job on pulling really very passionate and insightful speakers from around the world. So I think one of the things I really love, obviously, is connecting, different trends from different parts of the world, which I think, Singapore and Hong Kong are wonderful hubs to play that role. So thank you very much and congratulations. And again, I think in terms of food tech, I think it's not new anymore. We all said it more or less that this is a trend that is here to stay, that is here to increase, that it has, several aspects it touches on, our personal health, the well-being of the planet, and even economically it has really very interesting business models where people can also, make money on top of doing good. So we're very bullish on that. Thank you.
Okay. Great, thank you, Karina. You've just added yourself to the list of passionate speakers besides Irina, Luis, and
thank you.
Thanks for that. Joel, very quickly, because you've just attended for the first time, closing remarks and your feedback about the VCTV format. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I'd never heard of it. When someone first reached out to me, I wasn't sure it was a scam or not. So I was very reluctant to get it. Well, because I get a lot of emails about all sorts of things. But no, this has been a great experience. I look forward to listening to more of them. But one point I wanted to make, I'm absolutely pro angel, pro VC. I'm pro all early stage investing and respect anybody that puts their own money into the business. The only point I'm making is I know a lot of the VCs, associates and partners themselves, it's not easy to get money from them. So when they have to put their own money on the line, they have a very different point of view. So, but no, right. I mean, I think what's happened with technology around the world, a wadung in a small city in Indonesia can have digitized transactions is amazing in this day and age. So.
Joel, I think I just saw a comment from Carol. Obviously, it's okay. We can take it offline.
Sure, happy to.
Okay, Jose, what's your...
I see it.
Right. Yeah, Jose, what's your closing remarks and feedback about VCTV? Jose, you're on mute?
Yes, I was on mute, sorry. Well, to be honest, for me, it was a quite positive, very positive surprise. So I'm very happy to be on these sessions. The panel normally is very good. You get in touch with a lot of people that have different views, but I would say above average, what I've seen here in almost every case. And at the end, you are here to give some contribution, but also at the same time to learn a lot. And I can tell you that from all those views, it has been quite interesting to see how things are going. And you can see also where the essence lies after every session. And Sonny, I'll thank you so much because you dragged me into this. So
I know. I mean, you know what, Jose, like Arena, like Luis, I'm very, you know, when I, you know, when 8 p.m. when I remember 8 p.m., it just like, I'm so much into this. I just don't want to miss a single day. You know, I just pray God, please don't give me a sore throat for at least for that time slot of the day. So much passionate about, and I see the same passion in you, Jose. I mean, you started off on one panel, and you've been, you know, continuing with in the journey with us. I mean, I see the same passion with you, and thank you so much. And I'd love to have you both, Joel and Joseph, back on our forthcoming panels as well. Thank you, Irina. Over to you. I mean, I know what you like about VCTV, but just for the sake of the new viewers, like the audience, if you're interested.
Well, staying connected, making sure that we continue conversations, learning and contributing, I think it's very important. Building truly global network is important. Travel, VIP, private gatherings are not happening anymore. And this really allows us to stay in touch with each other, no matter where we are in the world, and make sure that we push forward the boundaries, the kind of trailblazing, the really new reality. I do want to add one thing. Regenerative farming solves the problems of the meat production. It really does. It's the traditional raising of the meat that we've been practicing is what's not sustainable. And it really is not. The sustainability and non-sustainability applies here really, really well. So, but it doesn't go it goes to growing grains, right, and how we grow those grains, and then so all that. But I think it would be we can follow this discussion later. It's a pleasure to be here, and I do VCTV every day of a week, and sometimes I do 3 times a day, and I don't know how I do it, but it happens to work. That's the beauty of being remote and having no limits of time, basically, right?
Yeah. I agree with you, Rina. It's so addictive, you know. I wish I could do 3 times as well, but I have another job. I mean, obviously, this is one of the aspect of my role, but I wish I could do like you, but I love it just like you. Thank you, Rina, for those insights. Again, we continue another panel about meat and as regenerative farming, and compare views between Jose and Irina for another panel. Thank you so much. Luis.
Oh, you didn't forget about me today. Look at this. Oh, wow. I know you were so sad yesterday because you didn't see me, but we'll try to rectify that. Just in closing, great panel, great input, and I like the diversity on VCTV, and that's what makes it compelling for a viewer that's looking to learn, looking to get information, looking to connect. And this is what this is all about. I don't want to get too much into a lot of things. I know we're short on time. Opportunities, alternative food products, functional foods, alternative dairy space, smart recycling. These are the areas that people should be looking at. And again, Sonny, thank you. And thank Minnie Mouse. Thank Carol. Thank everybody for making all this a reality. And you guys have a great day.
Actually, I wanted to just add on, we should continue this panel again for another week, or because I think a lot of things were unspoken because of the shortage of time, the limitation of time. I really request Carol to have this panel again. I hope everybody can make it. Thank you so much. Audience, startups, those who want to reach out to these investors, these speakers today, you know where to find them, www.latoken.com/profiles, and you can find Karina, Joel, Jose, Luis, and Irina all featured on our website. Having said that, thank you so much for your time, speakers, all of you today, for your time and your energy on the panel. And stay safe, stay connected, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.